Good evening and welcome to Just the News, last news bulletin before the wrap of the year. Unfortunately, there's bad news on the COVID front. Specifically, if you live in the city of Mumbai, Mumbai reported 3,671 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. It has been a very, very long time, several months since Mumbai reported numbers that were this high. It's 46% higher than the number we reported yesterday, which was 2,510 cases. The city of Mumbai has seen a five-fold increase in numbers since last week, where the city recorded about 600 odd cases. This afternoon, in fact, the Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray met with the state's COVID task force, and one of the key discussions was the management of the new variant that has driven up infections in the state. Now, as a result of this, Section 144 has been imposed in the entire city of Mumbai until the 7th of January, starting today. The police has completely prohibited any sort of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day celebrations, so no parties whatsoever in closed or open spaces, including restaurants, hotels, bars, pubs, resorts, and clubs until the 7th of January. The government is apparently taking this very seriously. Now, given the rising COVID cases, the central government has written to 8 states, urging them to take immediate measures. These 8 states are Delhi, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, and Jharkhand. As of now, Delhi and Maharashtra worst affected. We've seen this happen before, especially when it comes to Omicron. According to ANI, flagging a spike in COVID cases across 14 cities, the centre has urged state governments to take immediate measure, including strengthening their hospital preparedness and boosting their vaccine coverage. The Union Health Ministry today said the overall case positivity stands at 0.92%, but they said the positivity is above 10% in 8 districts and it's between 5 and 10% in 14 districts specifically. Right now, across the country, we have about 961 Omicron cases and a total of 13,154 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. This is not, of course, going to come in the way of the UP elections. Now, according to Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra, who had a meeting with the representatives of all political parties, he said it was unanimous among all of these political parties that the UP elections happen on time and not be postponed. Remember, we had the Allahabad High Court request the Election Commission to postpone these elections because of rising COVID cases. It doesn't seem like that is going to happen. Very interesting, though, that the Election Commission is going by the suggestion of the political parties. It should really be the other way around. Mr. Chandra said political parties had come up with suggestions on how groups of the population should be protected from the infection, and they had also asked for curbs to be put in place for those who are violating COVID norms in rallies. Mr. Chandra went on to say that people above the age of 80 and those with disabilities will be allowed to vote from home. Details about how this will happen has not been released yet. Poll frontline workers will need to be fully vaccinated. Uttar Pradesh elections are likely to be held between February and March next year. Apart from Uttar Pradesh, though, Goa, Manipur, Uttarakhand, and Gujarat will also go into elections early next year. Delhi's Health Minister Satyendra Jain has said Delhi is now witnessing a community spread of Omicron gradually. This comes after people with no travel history are also testing positive for the new variant. The Rajasthan government on Wednesday announced that only fully vaccinated people will be allowed in public places on the 31st of January onwards. There's a night curfew from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., which remains imposed, and a relaxation of 2 hours will be given on the 31st of December. Further, the government has allowed 24 hours food delivery and a maximum of 200 people at weddings. A lot of these restrictions, though, aren't exactly scientifically sound. In his New Year message, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences chief Dr. Randeep Guleria has said that one should not panic about the rise of the COVID cases across the country, but should be vigilant. People are vaccinated, still we are witnessing an increase in cases. Understand that the pandemic is not over, yet we are in a better position, he said, end quote. The World Health Organization's Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus on Wednesday said, and I quote, "I'm highly concerned that Omicron is being more transmissible, circulating at the same time as Delta, leading to a tsunami of COVID cases." He also said, "This is and will put immense pressure on the exhausted healthcare workers and health systems on the brink of collapse," end quote. In an interview with CNBC overseas, the US government's top infectious diseases expert, Dr. Antony Fauci, said Omicron COVID-19 variant is likely to peak at the end of January. One assumes he's talking about the US. According to US Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, the Omicron variant made up for 58.6% of the total COVID cases in the country as of the 25th of December. The US reported its first case on the 1st of December. That really moved fast. US is now breaking new records in the number of cases it's reporting on a daily basis. According to the AFP, England is set to open temporarily field hospitals to contain the possible overspill of patients due to the spread of coronavirus. The National Medical Director, Stephen Powers, has said given the high level of infections and the increase of hospital admissions, the National Health Service, or the NHS, will now move on a war footing. The NHS in England said it would start building structures in the grounds of 8 hospitals in cities in London, Bristol and Leeds from this week onwards, each designed to house around 100 extra patients. Also, reports say that residents of the locked down Chinese city of Xian have said that they're struggling to find enough food at this point. Meanwhile, according to AFP, the country's Commerce Ministry told reporters on Thursday that the 13 million residents of the city who've been placed in lockdown 8 days ago had sufficient access to essential supplies. We've seen, like I said, a spike in numbers in India, and given what's being reported right now in the US, in the UK, in China, it would be fair to assume that India will see a spike in cases as well. In other news now, away from COVID, do you remember how the people of Nagaland asked for the Armed Forces Special Powers Act to be repealed in their state? The central government has called the state of Nagaland disturbed and has extended the Armed Forces Special Powers Act for another 6 months, saying the entire state is in a disturbed and dangerous condition. The entire area was disturbed. The centre said the whole of Nagaland is in such a dangerous condition that the use of armed forces in aid of civil power is necessary. 14 civilians, remember, were killed in Nagaland earlier this month in a counter-insurgency operation that went horribly wrong, where the armed forces opened fire on a truck carrying normal people, ordinary citizens. Nagaland citizens have been protesting since then and demanding the repeal of this act, which has now, that protest has been used as a reason to extend that act. The Chhattisgarh police has arrested religious leader Kalicharan Maharaj from Madhya Pradesh for his alleged derogatory speech against Mahatma Gandhi at the Dharam Sansad. He hailed Mahatma Gandhi's assassin Nathuram Godse as well in his speech. In another case, the same Kalicharan, along with others, were booked for allegedly making provocative speeches at an event in Pune. Madhya Pradesh's Home Minister Narottam Mishra has objected to the manner in which this man has been arrested. Mishra has said the Chhattisgarh police violated the norms by not informing the Madhya Pradesh police about its actions. Mishra said, and I quote, the Chhattisgarh government could have summoned him or could have called him by giving him a notice. The DGP of Madhya Pradesh has been asked immediately to speak to the DGP of Chhattisgarh and ask about why they did not follow protocol. In response to Mr. Mishra, Chhattisgarh's Chief Minister has said that Narottam Mishra should tell us if he's happy or sad about the arrest of a person who derogated Mahatma Gandhi. End quote. No arrests have been made so far after the videos from the Dharam Sansad in Haridwar leaked, which called for genocide of Indian Muslims. The police have taken no action at all. Taking a look now at news coming in from across the world. The US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has called upon the Chinese and Hong Kong authorities to release 7 people linked to the independent news outlet Stand News who were arrested in Hong Kong on sedition charges during the police crackdown. The journalists were detained for conspiracy to publish seditious publications, a crime punishable by 2 years in jail. In the statement, Antony Blinken said, "We call on the People's Republic of China and Hong Kong authorities to cease targeting Hong Kong's free and independent media and immediately release those journalists and media executives who've been unjustly detained and charged." Quote. Iran on Thursday has announced that it carried out a new space launch. The Defense Ministry spokesperson Ahmad Hosseini was quoted by state television saying that the Simorgh satellite launcher carried 3 research cargoes into space. The research goals foreseen for this launch have been achieved. The United States has voiced concern about the launch, saying the test could boost Iran's ballistic missile technology at a moment when the two nations are inching back to diplomacy. Western governments worry that satellite launch systems incorporate technologies interchangeable with those that are used in ballistic missile launch systems. Quick look, and this is good news from our sports update. India beat South Africa by 113 runs in the first test to take the 1-0 lead in the three-match series. It set a stiff target of 305, and South Africa were bowled out for 191 on the fifth and final day of the opening test on Thursday. KL Rahul was named the player of the match for his 100 in the first innings. He's having a really good month, KL Rahul there. And finally, Barcelona on Wednesday said 3 more players have tested positive for COVID-19, raising the total number of players testing positive to 7. In a statement, the club has said the players are in good health and are isolating at home. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Thank you so much for listening. So like I said, going into the new year, we would be really happy to hear from you on whose voices you would like us to incorporate. If there are interviews that you'd like us to bring to you, let us know who you'd like to hear from, and we'll try and make that happen. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good year.